What is going on, people? TripleM back again with another video, and today we've got to talk about Manchester United as they emerge the victors away from home against Wolves and pick up the vital 3 points to send them into the top 4. Now, if I had asked you, do you think Manchester United will be in a top 4 race after we lost 4-0 to Brentford and after we lost 2-1 to Brighton at Old Trafford on the opening day, you probably would have laughed at me, and I would have laughed at myself because that question at that time sounded ludicrous. Fast forward to where we are now, it is genuinely perplexing as to how Erik ten Hag has managed to drag this team into the top 4. It's honestly amazing. Today's performance wasn't pretty. Today's performance wasn't perfect. In fact, there's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of ugly things we're going to talk about in today's video. But I want to start off with the positives. I want to start off by talking about this man, Marcus Rashford. The resurgence of this man and the way he has shut a lot of Manchester United fans, myself included, up is amazing. It's genuinely amazing. I had written him off, and he, not so long ago, before we signed Rashford Varane, was one of my favorite players at the club. But I got so fed up of his performances under Oli and under Ranić that I said, you know what? I think we need to sell him. And boy, do I look like a fool, because he is proving each and every doubter wrong this time around. And it's not just the goals. It's not just the assists. It's how he's transforming as a player. The fact that his positioning seems a lot more intelligent. The fact that he's actually scoring goals through the middle as opposed to out wide, cutting in, relying on the counter-attack. He's actually engineering good opportunities by moving intelligently off the ball and being a very smart player. Now, he still runs himself into blind alleys. He still does Marcus Rashford type things. But for the most part, he's improved. I genuinely believe that. And one thing that can't be quantified by the eye test or stats is his body language. I personally think that his body language has changed. I think his mentality has changed. I think the Marcus Rashford who dreamed of playing for Manchester United and knows what it means to put on that shirt is back. And gone is the Marcus Rashford who was lethargic, the Marcus Rashford who wasn't tracking back, the Marcus Rashford who just didn't look like he gave a rat's ass, to be honest. That's just a personal opinion of mine. Let's move on. Let's talk about Rashford Varane, because I thought he was good today. Really, really good. And he's so consistently good that you almost start to expect it from him, and therefore you stop praising it because you're like, oh yeah, it's just Varane. But like, this is genuinely mind-blowing. I still can't believe that this guy plays for Manchester United in 2022. How did we land up with such a genuinely world-class defender? He has been brilliant. So many key blocks, so many key interceptions, but also so calm at progressing the ball up the field, as centre-back should be in the Erik ten Hag system. Another man, Luke Shaw, who I think, by the way, was more impressive today. Now, I don't think he had a better game than Rashford Varane, but considering that he's playing out of position, I think what he's doing is more impressive, because Luke Shaw has every right to have a bad game. There's every excuse in the book to say that, okay, clearly we're short on centre-backs, that's why our defence played badly today. When, to the contrary, our defense actually played quite well. Now, you could ask questions of Malacia. You could ask questions of Wan-Bissaka, sure. But I'm talking about the centre-backs. I'm talking about Luke Shaw and Rashford Varane. I think they were both solid as a pairing, considering one of them isn't even a centre-back. And also, they never play together, like right next to each other, because Rashford Varane is usually on the right. So he only ever plays with Delo, and in this case, Wan-Bissaka. He never has that connection or that chance to build a rapport with Luke Shaw, and somehow they look like they've been playing together for years. It's mind-blowing when you think about it, because Wolves are not pushovers. Wolves are not an easy team to play against. They are oftentimes a very difficult team for Manchester United to play against, and somehow our defensive performance is really good. But now, let's talk about the negatives. Let's talk about the shot map for Manchester United, because we had a lot of good shots in a lot of good areas, as you can see on screen here. And for some reason, we just couldn't convert. I say some reason, we know why. Antony, right? Let's talk about him. Let's have an uncomfortable discussion about this man. I think people are judging him based off of his price tag and not judging him based off of who he was at Ajax. When we signed Antony, I complained about the price tag. I did. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to retract that statement. I said that he is not an £80 million player. But then I also went on to say that, you know what? You can't really judge this player on his price tag because it's not his fault. He didn't buy himself. He didn't negotiate his own price. He just accepted a move to Manchester United. So really and truly, let's judge the player for his actual skill sets and his actual ability. And when you look at it, Antony's a very raw talent. If you go back and watch some of the footage at Ajax, read scout reports, look at his FBref report if you're into stats, try find things to educate yourself on who this guy was before he came to Manchester United, and try do your due diligence. You will realize that he wasn't the finished article. He was never this player who's going to come to Manchester United and just tear the Premier League to shreds. If anything, I think that all the people, including myself, who said that, you know what, he's going to need a betting in period, were right. And we're being proven right, because despite the fact that he scored, and I think he's opening 3 Premier League games, he scored back-to-back in all 3 of them games, those performances weren't convincing either. Those performances were not convincing at all, and we're seeing it with Anthony now. He just isn't ready. He just isn't ready. And that's not a dig at Anthony. That's not saying that let's write him off. That's not saying that signing him was a mistake. That's just saying that he needs patience. However, with this man, my opinion differs a little bit, because Anthony Martial is not a new signing. Anthony Martial didn't play at the World Cup. Anthony Martial doesn't have the same excuses that Anthony has. He's not as young as Anthony. Anthony's just come from the World Cup, and Anthony also came from a foreign league. So Anthony has every excuse in the book to say, you know what, it's my first season. Give me a break. Cut me a bit of slack. Anthony Martial doesn't have that excuse. He is a senior player at Manchester United. He's a senior member of that dressing room. Gone are the days of, oh, he needs a run of games. He needs a bit of time. No. Time's up. You're on borrowed time. You are on borrowed time, my friend. You are on borrowed time. It's about time you start delivering. And some of those chances today were not excusable that he missed. I will qualify that statement by saying his hold-up was great. His movement off the ball, as usual, was great. The fact that he's bringing other people into play and we look more fluid as a team going forward is great. We created chances in part because of Anthony Martial. We know this. But he also needs to take accountability for the lack of finishing and just his overall demeanor. Yes, he's an introvert. Yes, he's somebody who, again, people over-criticize his body language, but he just doesn't look like he cares sometimes. And it bothers me as a fan. I'm not going to lie. It really does bother me, because as a fan, I want to know that you care. Now, obviously, Anthony Martial doesn't care about me. He's never going to see this video, so he doesn't care. But to me as a fan, I care. You know what I mean? Anyways, let's move on. The last person I want to talk about is Erik ten Hag, because I think that Erik ten Hag, there's a lot of people who don't want to give him the praise that he actually deserves, because people are so focused on the Glazers and the state that the club is in. And a lot of Manchester United fans are confused at the moment, because it's like, do you get excited about the fact that we're in the top 4, we're playing genuinely good football for the first time in years, and we look like a team that actually has a bit of identity about it? Or do you get upset at the state of the club financially and what the Glazers are doing? And for me, I've never understood why it can't be both. I've never understood why you can't say, I don't like the Glazers, I do not like what they're doing to the club, but Erik ten Hag has nothing to do with that. And Erik ten Hag is separate from that issue. I've never understood why Manchester United fans can't separate those two things and why those two things can't coexist. It seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, it seems to be like some Manchester United fans are deliberately not celebrating or giving Erik ten Hag any credit because of their negativity and their PTSD towards the Glazers. And it's not fair. It's just not fair, because Erik ten Hag has won over 70% of his games in his first 6 months in charge. That is amazing. That is genuinely magnificent. We've lost 1 Premier League game in the last 15. After losing 4-0 to Brentford and losing 2-1 to Brighton, we're actually in the top 4 at the end of Christmas. There's no shot in hell that you don't think that that is impressive, considering all the off-field issues that he's had to deal with. Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, who, by the way, only came back to first-team training today. The list goes on. The Mason Greenwood situation. The list goes on. Erik ten Hag has a long list of valid excuses, plus the fact that he's still a new manager, by the way, so he's allowed to have a bad first season. That's another thing. He's got a long list of excuses, and yet somehow Manchester United are actually putting in genuinely pleasing performances on the eye that we can say, compared to Oli, compared to Mourinho, compared to LVG, this team actually looks like it's got a bit of character. And we're still missing some key players. Delo isn't back in the team yet. We don't have centre-backs. Varane is the only centre-back we have, and we kept the clean sheet against Wolves. And people are still being super negative. You know what I mean? Am I the only one who feels this way? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too positive, but the way I see it, you can separate those two issues. You can separate your hatred for the Glazers and still be excited by what's going on the field. That's just a personal opinion of mine. You don't have to agree. By the way, thank you for 500 subscribers. I really appreciate all the new subs. It's been your boy TripleM. Peace.